The late October wind cut through downtown Detroit like a blade, carrying the scent of motor oil and fallen leaves through the streets of Corktown. The sky hung heavy and grey, threatening rain that would turn the city's cracked pavement into a patchwork of dark mirrors. Marcus Wellington stood in the doorway of Wellington Premium Auto Service, his $6,000 suit pristine against the backdrop of hydraulic lifts and tool chests that had been his grandfather's legacy. He checked his Rolex, 2:47 p.m. His patience had worn thinner than the tread on a bald tire. "Riley?" His voice echoed through the shop, sharp and commanding. "My office, now." From beneath a lifted Cadillac Escalade, a pair of steel-toed boots shifted. The creeper rolled out slowly, deliberately, revealing Riley Chen, 28 years old, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her coveralls stained with oil, grease, and the honest sweat of a 12-hour shift. She had a smudge of transmission fluid across her cheekbone and eyes that burned with exhaustion and something else, resentment that had been building for months. She wiped her hands on a red shop rag, her movements unhurried. Around her, the other mechanics, Tommy, Big Mike, and Carlos, exchanged nervous glances. They knew what was coming. Everyone knew. The tension between Marcus and Riley had been crackling like a live wire for weeks. "I'm in the middle of a transmission rebuild," Riley said, her voice steady but cold. "Mrs. Kowalski needs her car by 5. She has to pick up her grandson from dialysis." I said now. Marcus's jaw tightened. He turned on his heel and walked toward the glass-walled office that overlooked the shop floor, a space he'd renovated last year, all chrome and leather, completely disconnected from the grease and grit below. Riley exhaled slowly, set down her tools with deliberate care, and followed. Her boots left faint prints of oil on the polished concrete floor. She could feel the eyes of her co-workers on her back, supportive, worried, angry on her behalf. The office door closed with a soft click that felt more ominous than a slam. Marcus didn't sit. He stood behind his desk, framed by the window that overlooked the Detroit skyline, his arms crossed. Behind him, photographs lined the wall, his grandfather, Marcus Wellington Sr., in grease-stained coveralls, shaking hands with customers. His father, Marcus Wellington Jr., in the same shop, the same honest smile. And then Marcus III, in his business school graduation photo, looking polished and ambitious. "Do you know what I just got off the phone with?" Marcus began, his tone clipped and professional. "Anderson Luxury Motors. They're ready to buy us out. Full acquisition. $7.5 million. Riley's expression didn't change. "Congratulations." "Don't," Marcus pointed a finger at her. "Don't give me that attitude. This is the biggest opportunity this shop has ever seen, and you're standing in the way of it." "How exactly am I standing in the way?" "Anderson wants a clean, efficient operation. They want technicians who look professional, who represent the premium brand they're building. They came through here last week for their assessment, and what did they see?" He gestured toward her. "You, covered in grease, looking like you just crawled out from under a car in some back-alley garage." Riley's hands curled into fists at her sides. "I had crawled out from under a car, because that's the job. That's what mechanics do. That's what mechanics used to do," Marcus corrected. "This isn't your grandfather's shop anymore. This is a premium service center. We have standards. We have an image to maintain." "Your grandfather built this place with his hands," Riley shot back, her voice rising. "He taught me everything I know. He hired me when I was 19 years old, fresh out of tech school, because he said I had the gift. He didn't care what I looked like. He cared that I could diagnose an engine, not by sound alone, that I could rebuild a transmission in half the time of anyone else, that I actually gave a damn about the customers." "My grandfather is dead," Marcus said flatly, "and his way of doing business died with him. The automotive industry has changed. Customers want speed, efficiency, and a clean environment. They don't want to see someone who looks like—" He stopped himself, but the damage was done. "Someone who looks like what?" Riley's voice was dangerously quiet. "A woman." Asian, working class, which one bothers you most, Marcus? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. She stepped closer to the desk. I'm the best mechanic you have. Everyone knows it. Tommy knows it. Carlos knows it. Even Big Mike, who's been doing this for 30 years, admits it. I've trained half the people out there. I've saved this shop thousands in diagnostic time alone. But because I don't fit your premium image, because I actually get my hands dirty doing the work. Your grandfather built this place on. I'm the problem. Marcus's face flushed. You're insubordinate. You undermine my authority in front of the other employees. You question every decision I make. Because your decisions are terrible. Riley's composure finally cracked. You want to replace real mechanics with quick lube techs. You want to push customers toward unnecessary services to boost the bottom line. You want to turn Wellington Auto into some corporate chain that squeezes every dollar out of people who are barely getting by. I want to build something sustainable, something profitable. Your grandfather built something sustainable. It was called integrity. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Outside the office, the shop had gone quiet. Everyone had stopped working, though they pretended not to listen. Marcus walked around the desk slowly, his voice dropping to something cold and final. I've been patient with you, Riley. More patient than I should have. Been out of respect for my grandfather's memory. But this ends today. You're fired. Effective immediately. Riley felt the words hit her like a physical blow, but she kept her face neutral. She'd known this was coming, had known for weeks, but knowing didn't make it easier. 2 weeks' notice, no notice. I want you out of my shop in 30 minutes. I'll have your final paycheck ready, including your accrued vacation time. Mrs. Kowalski's transmission. Tommy can finish it. Tommy doesn't. Know how? It's a 10-speed, and the valve body, then the customer will have to wait another day. That's not your concern anymore. Marcus returned to his desk, sat down, and opened his laptop, dismissing her with his indifference. 30 minutes, Riley. Clean out your toolbox and go. For a long moment, Riley stood there, studying the man in front of her. She thought about Marcus Wellington Sr., who'd spent hours teaching her the difference between good work and great work. Who'd taken her to lunch every Friday and asked about her life, her dreams, her struggles. Who'd been more of a father to her than her own absent dad. She thought about how proud he'd been when she'd diagnosed a misfire that 3 other shops had missed, saving the customer thousands of dollars, and she thought about how disappointed he would be in his grandson right now. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. That's my decision to make. Riley nodded slowly. Yeah, it is. She turned and walked out of the office, her head held high despite the burning in her chest. The shop floor was silent. Every eye was on her. Tommy, a lean man in his 40s with kind eyes, stepped forward. Riley, I'm so sorry. It's fine. She cut him off gently. It's been coming. Big Mike, a mountain of a man with a grey beard and tattooed forearms, looked like he wanted to punch something. This is bullshit. We should all walk. Don't. Riley's voice was firm. You all have families, bills. Don't throw away. Your job's because of me. Carlos, the youngest of the crew at 22, looked close to tears. You taught me everything. What am I supposed to do without you? Riley managed a small smile and squeezed his shoulder. You're going to be fine. You're a good tech, Carlos. Trust yourself. She walked to her toolbox. A massive red snap-on chest that had cost her $18,000, purchased 1 drawer at a time over 7 years. It was her most valuable possession, filled with tools she'd collected, traded for, and earned. Each socket, each wrench, each specialty tool told a story. She began emptying the top drawers, her movements mechanical. Personal items first, the photo of her and Marcus Sr. at a Tigers game, both of them grinning, him in his vintage Wellington Auto shirt. Her ASE Master Technician certification, framed and faded. A tiger's eye stone her mom had given her for luck. Need help moving that? Big Mike asked, gesturing to the toolbox. I've got my truck out back, Riley said. But yeah, thanks. It took 3 of them to wheel the massive toolbox through the shop and load it into her beat-up 2003 Ford F-150. The truck had 287,000 miles on it, but the engine purred like new because Riley had rebuilt it herself, twice. Marcus appeared in the doorway as they finished, holding an envelope. He walked over, his expression unreadable, and held it out. "Your check." Riley took it without looking at him. "For what it's worth," Marcus said, his voice quieter now, almost uncertain, "you are a good mechanic, maybe even great, but this business needs to evolve. I hope you understand that someday." Riley finally met his eyes. "I understand that your grandfather would be ashamed of you." She climbed into her truck, started the engine, and drove away from Wellington Premium Auto Service for the last time. In her rearview mirror, she watched the building grow smaller, the place that had been her second home for 9 years, the place where she'd learned not just to fix cars, but to love the craft, to honor the connection between human hands and machines. The rain finally started as she turned onto Michigan Avenue, fat droplets splattering against her windshield. Riley turned on the wipers and let herself cry, quietly, briefly, allowing herself that moment of grief. Then she wiped her eyes, squared her shoulders, and started thinking about what came next. She didn't know it yet, but what came next would change everything, not just for her, but for Marcus. Wellington and his precious premium image, too. 3 weeks later, Marcus Wellington stood in the same office, staring at the same spreadsheet, and felt the first cold fingers of panic wrap around his chest. November had come to Detroit with a vengeance. The temperature had dropped into the 20s overnight, and with it came the annual surge of desperate customers, dead batteries, frozen fuel lines, failed heaters, and all the myriad ways that Michigan winters killed unprepared vehicles. This should have been the shop's busiest, most profitable season. Instead, they were hemorrhaging money. The numbers on the screen didn't lie. Revenue was down 37% compared to last November. Customer retention had dropped 42%, and the average repair time had nearly doubled. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building behind his eyes. Through the glass, he could see the shop floor. 3 lifts occupied, 2 empty. At this time last year, every bay would have been full, with a waiting list stretching into next week. His phone buzzed, another 1-star review on Google. "Took my Audi in for a simple brake job. Ended up waiting 3 days, and they still got it wrong. The grinding noise is worse now, never coming back. Where did the good mechanics go?" Marcus closed his eyes. He knew where the good mechanics had gone. The door to his office opened without a knock. Jennifer Matthews, his business manager and the person handling the Anderson acquisition, walked in with her tablet and an expression that meant more bad news. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down across from him without invitation. Jennifer was 45, sharply intelligent, and had no patience for denial. "Anderson just called. They're putting the acquisition on hold." "What? Why?" "Because they're not idiots, Marcus." She turned her tablet around, showing him a spreadsheet even more damning than his own. "They've been monitoring our performance since they made the offer. Customer satisfaction has tanked. Revenue is in free fall. Your average repair time has gone from industry-leading to industry embarrassment. They're concerned about the operational instability. It's a temporary dip. Winter startup issues. It's not winter. It's Riley." Jennifer leaned back in her chair. "She was the backbone of this operation, and you fired her. She was insubordinate. She was exceptional, and now she's gone, and your shop is falling apart." Jennifer pulled up another screen. "Do you know what happened 3 days after you fired her?" Marcus said nothing. "Tommy quit, gave you 2 weeks' notice, then landed at Monroe Street Auto. He told them, and I quote, 'If Riley Chen isn't good enough for Wellington, then Wellington isn't good enough for me.'" Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. "I didn't know Tommy left. Because you're not paying attention. You're so focused on the premium image and the corporate sale that you've lost sight of what actually makes this business work. She swiped to another page. Big Mike is interviewing at 3 other shops. Carlos is taking online classes because he says there's no one left here to learn from. You're down to 4 mechanics, and only one of them is actually qualified to do complex diagnostics. We can hire who? There's a nationwide shortage of qualified automotive technicians. The good ones are employed, and word travels fast in this industry. Do you know what they're saying about Wellington Auto at the tech schools and trade shows? Marcus shook his head, though he could guess. That you fired the best diagnostic technician in Detroit because she didn't fit your aesthetic. That you value appearance over competence. That you're turning your grandfather's legacy into a corporate quick lube. Jennifer's voice softened slightly. No one wants to work for you, Marcus. And worse, customers are leaving. Do you want to know where they're going? But Marcus already knew. The knot in his stomach tightened. Riley opened her own shop, Jennifer confirmed. Chen Automotive. She's running it out of a small garage in southwest Detroit. 2 bays, basic equipment. She opened 2 weeks ago, and she's already got a 3-week waiting list. Marcus stared at her. How is that possible? Because she's that good, and because she takes care of people. Jennifer stood up. Mrs. Kowalski, the transmission job you had Tommy finish? It failed again a week later. She brought it back. We charged her another $800, and Tommy still couldn't fix it. You know where she took it? Riley. Who diagnosed it in 20 minutes, found that Tommy had installed the valve body backward, fixed it for free, and gave Mrs. Kowalski a loaner car while she worked on it. Mrs. Kowalski has been a Wellington customer for 30 years. Now she's telling everyone to go to Chen Automotive. That's one customer. It's 63 customers. Jennifer brought up a list. I've been tracking it. 63 of your long-term customers have switched to Riley's shop in 3 weeks. They're not leaving because her prices are better. They're not. They're leaving because they trust her. Marcus felt the walls closing in. What about Anderson? Can we salvage the deal? Maybe, if you can turn the numbers around in the next 60 days. But honestly, Marcus. Jennifer collected her tablet and headed for the door. I think you need to consider whether selling is even the right move anymore. Your grandfather built something special here, something based on relationships and trust and expertise. You're trying to turn it into something else, and it's dying. She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Marcus sat alone in his office as the afternoon light faded. Outside, the November sky had turned the color of slate. He watched Carlos struggle with a diagnostic scan on a BMW, searching through menus, clearly lost without Riley's guidance. The job that would have taken her 30 minutes had now stretched into its 3rd hour. His phone buzzed again. Another review. I've been going to Wellington Auto for 15 years. Not anymore. The mechanic who actually knew what she was doing is gone, and the quality has gone with her. Took my car to Chen Automotive instead. Best decision I ever made. Riley Chen is a miracle worker. Marcus grabbed his coat and keys. He needed to see this for himself. Chen Automotive was located in a neighborhood that Marcus rarely visited. A working-class area of southwest Detroit, where the houses were small, the streets were narrow, and the American dream was still something people worked 80-hour weeks to achieve. The shop itself was modest, almost humble. A converted 2-bay garage with a small office attached, the kind of place that had probably been a gas station 40 years ago. The sign was simple. Chen Automotive. Honest work, fair prices. Through the large bay windows, Marcus could see both lifts occupied, and even from outside, he could hear the familiar sounds of air tools and running engines. He parked across the street, feeling oddly like a spy, and watched. Riley emerged from beneath a lifted Honda Accord, wiping her hands on a rag. She was dressed the same as always, coveralls, boots, hair pulled back, but there was something different about her now. A lightness, an energy. She was smiling as she talked to the customer, a middle-aged woman who laughed at something Riley said. Marcus watched as Riley walked. The woman threw the repairs, pointing to components under the hood, explaining in clear terms what was wrong and why. The woman nodded, asked questions, and seemed completely at ease. When they shook hands, it was warm, genuine, the kind of customer relationship his grandfather used to have. A young man, maybe 25, worked in the second bay. Marcus didn't recognize him, but he worked with the focused efficiency of someone well-trained. Riley walked over, checked his work, gave him a nod of approval and a pat on the shoulder. The pride on the young man's face was unmistakable. This was what Wellington Auto used to be. Marcus felt something twist in his chest, shame, regret, and a belated understanding of what he'd destroyed. He was about to start his car and leave when someone tapped on his window. He jumped, startled, and looked up to see Big Mike's massive frame filling his peripheral vision. Marcus rolled down the window. "Mike, I didn't know you were working here." "Yeah, started last week." Big Mike crossed his arms. "What are you doing here, boss?" I wanted to see... You wanted to see what you threw away." Big Mike's expression was hard, but not cruel. "Well, there it is. A mechanic who gives a damn, building something real." "How is she doing this?" Marcus asked. "She just opened. How does she have this many customers already?" "Word of mouth, social media, and a reputation that spans a decade." Big Mike leaned against the car. "You know what Riley did her first week? She fixed old Mr. Patterson's truck. He's been going to Wellington since your grandfather opened. His truck needed a fuel pump, but he's on disability and couldn't afford the part. You know what Riley did?" Marcus shook his head. "She found a good used part from a junkyard, installed it for the cost of her labor, and let him pay in installments. $50 a month. Mr. Patterson posted about it on the neighborhood Facebook group. By the next morning, she had 20 new customer requests. That's not sustainable." "It's exactly sustainable," Big Mike interrupted, "because Mr. Patterson told his veteran buddies at the VFW. Those guys told their families. Those families told their co-workers. That's how trust works, Marcus. That's how your grandfather built Wellington Auto. One customer at a time, treating people right." Marcus stared at the shop, watching Riley laugh with another customer who'd just arrived. "I made a mistake, didn't I?" "Yeah, you did. Big." Mike straightened up. "But you can fix it. Question is, will you?" Before Marcus could respond, Big Mike walked back toward the shop. Marcus watched him go, then looked at Riley again. She'd gone back under the Honda, completely absorbed in her work, doing what she was born to do. Marcus started his car and drove back to Wellington Premium Auto Service, his mind churning with possibilities and pride, and the growing realization that saving his business might require swallowing his ego and admitting he'd been catastrophically wrong. The question was, would Riley even take his call? The first week of December brought a cold snap that froze the Detroit River and turned the city streets into ice rinks. It also brought Marcus Wellington to the lowest point of his professional life. Anderson Luxury Motors had officially withdrawn their acquisition offer. Jennifer had quit, taking a position with a competitor. Carlos had given his notice. And this morning the bank had called about the line of credit Marcus had extended to cover the revenue shortfall. Wellington Premium Auto Service was dying. Marcus sat in his office at 6 a.m. before any of the remaining staff arrived and looked at the final numbers. If things didn't change dramatically in the next 30 days, he would have to close the shop his grandfather had built 53 years ago. The weight of that failure pressed down on him like a physical force. His phone rang, unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Marcus Wellington?" "Yes." "This is Diane Kowalski. We met once, years ago, when your grandfather was still running the shop." Marcus straightened. "Mrs. Kowalski, the transmission customer." "Mrs. Kowalski, if this is about the repair issues, I can—" "This isn't about my car," she interrupted gently. "This is about your grandfather. I've been thinking about him a lot lately. He was a good man, Marcus. A really good man." "He was," Marcus agreed quietly. "He loved that shop, and he loved the people who worked for him. Did he ever tell you why he hired Riley Chen?" "He said she had potential." "He said more than that." Mrs. Kowalski's voice carried the weight of memory. "I was there the day he interviewed her. She was 19, just this tiny thing, fresh out of tech school. Your grandfather gave her a diagnostic test, told her to figure out why his old Buick was misfiring. She spent 3 hours on it, found a crack in the coil pack that was only visible with a magnifying glass. When she explained what she'd found, your grandfather's face just lit up. He told her, 'You don't just fix cars, you understand them. That's rare, that's precious. Don't ever let anyone tell you you're not good enough.'" Marcus felt something catch in his throat. "He hired her on the spot," Mrs. Kowalski continued, "and he mentored her for 9 years. He told me once that Riley reminded him of himself when he was young, hungry, dedicated, willing to do whatever it took to get the job done right. He was so proud of her." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you've forgotten what your grandfather actually valued. It wasn't premium services or corporate acquisitions. It was people. It was integrity. It was the craft." She paused. "And I think you've forgotten that Riley isn't just a good mechanic. She's your grandfather's legacy, just as much as you are." After she hung up, Marcus sat in the silence of his office, feeling the full weight of his mistakes. He thought about his grandfather, the man who'd taught him to change his first oil, who'd paid for his business degree, who'd trusted him with the family legacy. What would Marcus Wellington Sr. think of his grandson now? Would he see a savvy businessman adapting to modern markets? Or would he see someone who'd lost sight of everything that mattered? Marcus knew the answer. He pulled up Riley's number on his phone. His thumb hovered over the call button for a long moment. Pride, ego, and fear all warred within him. But beneath it all was something stronger, the desperate knowledge that he needed help, and there was only one person who could provide it. He made the call. Riley was under a Chevy Silverado, replacing a leaking rear differential seal when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, saw Marcus Wellington's name, and felt a spike of anger and curiosity in equal measure. She almost didn't answer, but something, maybe professionalism, maybe curiosity, maybe the faintest echo of respect for the man his grandfather had been, made her wipe her hands and pick up. "Riley Chen." "Riley, it's Marcus." His voice sounded different, smaller. "Do you have a minute to talk?" "I'm working. Unlike some people, I don't have time for long conversations during business hours." The jab landed. She heard him take a breath. "I deserve that. I deserve a lot worse than that. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to hear me out." Riley slid out from under the truck and sat on her creeper, phone pressed to her ear. "I'm listening. The shop is failing. Wellington Auto is failing." The admission seemed to cost him. "Since you left, revenue is down 60%. Most of the good techs are gone. Customers are leaving in droves. If I can't turn it around in 30 days, I'll have to close." "Sounds like a problem you created." "It is. You're absolutely right." Another pause, heavier this time. "I was wrong, Riley. About everything. I was so focused on profit margins and corporate buyouts that I forgot what actually makes this business work. I forgot what my grandfather taught me, and I fired the best thing that ever happened to Wellington Auto." Riley said nothing, waiting. "I'm calling to ask you to come back." "No. Riley, please." "No," she repeated harder this time. "You fired me, Marcus, in front of everyone. You told me I wasn't good enough for your premium image. You threw away 9 years like they meant nothing. And now that your business is failing, you want me to come crawling back and save you? That's not going to happen. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to save the shop, my grandfather's shop. That's not fair. I know, but it's true." His voice cracked slightly. "You loved that place. You loved my grandfather. He loved you like Like you were family. Don't let his legacy die because I was an idiot." Riley closed her eyes, feeling the old ache of grief for Marcus Wellington Sr. "Your grandfather's legacy isn't the building, Marcus. It's not the equipment or the customer list. It's the values, the integrity, the commitment to doing right by people. You can't save that by just bringing me back. You'd have to change, fundamentally change." "I will. I am." He sounded desperate now. "I'll give you full operational control. You can hire who you want, set the standards, run the shop the way my grandfather would have run it. I'll handle the business side, the books, the marketing, but the shop floor is yours." "And what happens when another corporate buyer comes along? When you get another chance to cash out and leave the greasy mechanic behind?" The silence stretched long enough that Riley thought he might have hung up. "I turned down Anderson," Marcus finally said. "Before they withdrew the offer, I told them I wasn't interested, because Jennifer was right, because Mrs. Kowalski was right, because you were right. My grandfather didn't build Wellington Auto to sell it to the highest bidder. He built it to serve the community, to be a place where honest work meant something." Riley stood up, her mind racing. She looked around her small shop, built on her own terms, filled with customers who trusted her. She'd been happy here, free. Why would she give that up? But then she thought about Marcus Wellington Sr., about the thousands of hours he'd spent teaching her, mentoring her, believing in her. She thought about the other young techs who needed that same mentorship. She thought about the legacy that would die if the shop closed. "I need conditions," she said finally. "Anything. Tommy comes back. Big Mike comes back. I bring my assistant, Jason. He's brilliant, and he deserves a shot at a real shop. We hire Carlos back at a better rate and put him in a formal apprenticeship program. Done. We reinstate the old customer service standards. No pushing unnecessary services. No corporate upselling. If a customer needs a $5 fix, that's what they get. Done. And you put it in writing. A contract that gives me full operational control for 5 years, with protections that you can't fire me for anything short of gross negligence or criminal activity. I'll have my lawyer draft it today." Riley took a deep breath, hardly believing what she was about to say. "And one more thing. Name it. You work the shop floor 1 day a week, in coveralls, actually turning wrenches. If you're going to run your grandfather's shop, you need to remember what it feels like to do the work." This pause was different. She could almost hear him processing the request, the blow to his pride, the discomfort of getting his hands dirty. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, I'll do it." Riley sat down on a rolling stool, her heart pounding. Was she really doing this? Going back to the place that had rejected her? But it wasn't the place that had rejected her. It was one man who'd been blinded by ambition and ego, and maybe, just maybe, he'd learned something. "I'll come by tomorrow," she said. "We'll talk details. But Marcus, yeah? If you ever disrespect me or my people again, I walk. And I take everyone with me. Understood?" "Understood. And Riley?" "What? Thank you. You're saving my life here." "I'm not doing it for you," Riley said bluntly. "I'm doing it for your grandfather, for the techs who need jobs, for the customers who deserve better. Don't forget that." She hung up before he could respond. Jason rolled out from under the Silverado, having clearly heard the entire conversation. "Did you just agree to go back?" "I think I did," Riley said, still processing it herself. "Are you crazy?" "Probably." She looked at her assistant, this young man she'd been training, who reminded her so much of herself at 19. "But if we do this right, we could build something real, something that lasts, something your grandfather would be proud of." Jason grinned. "Your grandfather wasn't my grandfather. You know what I mean." "Yeah," he said, sobering. "I do. And for what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. Scary, but right." Riley nodded slowly, looking around her small, perfect shop. She'd built this from nothing, but maybe she could build something even bigger, not in size, but in impact. A place where young mechanics could learn the craft the right way, where customers could trust they'd be treated fairly, where a legacy could continue. It would require trusting Marcus to keep his word. It would require vulnerability and risk, but maybe some things were worth the risk. 3 months later, on a crisp March morning, Riley Chen stood in the center of Wellington Automotive. They'd dropped the premium from the name and felt something she hadn't felt in years: pride. The shop hummed with purposeful activity. All 6 bays were occupied. Tommy worked on an intricate engine diagnostic, explaining each step to Carlos, who nodded and took notes. Big Mike supervised Jason on a brake job, offering encouragement and corrections in equal measure. 2 new apprentices, both recent tech school graduates, shadowed the experienced mechanics, soaking up knowledge like sponges. And in Bay 4, wearing coveralls that still looked uncomfortably new, Marcus Wellington wrestled with an oil change on a Honda Civic. "You're stripping the threads," Riley called over, walking to his bay. "Ease up on the torque." Marcus adjusted his grip on the wrench, his face showing concentration and frustration. "How do you make this look so easy?" "Practice. About 10,000 oil changes worth of practice." She took the wrench from him, demonstrated the proper technique, then handed it back. Again, slower this time. He followed her guidance, and the drain plug seated properly. A small victory, but the relief on his face was genuine. "Good," Riley said. "Now you know why we charge what we charge for even simple services. There's skill in everything." Marcus nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead despite the cool temperature. He'd been honoring his commitment. Every Wednesday he worked the floor. The first few weeks had been painful to watch, but he was slowly, grudgingly earning the respect of the crew by showing up and trying. Riley's phone buzzed, a text from a new customer referred by Mrs. Kowalski. The transformation hadn't been instant or easy. Those first few weeks back had been tense, with old resentment simmering beneath the surface. But Riley had laid down clear expectations. Marcus had honored his agreements, and slowly, painfully, they'd rebuilt something functional. Not quite friendship. The wounds were still too fresh for that. But mutual respect, professional collaboration, and most importantly, they'd rebuilt the shop itself. The customer reviews had turned around within a month. Word spread through the community that Wellington Automotive was back to its roots. Honest work, fair prices, mechanics who actually cared. The waiting list had grown from days to weeks. They'd brought back the old traditions too. Every Friday the whole crew had lunch together, Riley's idea, borrowed from Marcus Sr.'s playbook. They'd started a formal apprenticeship program, partnering with local tech schools to give young mechanics real-world training. They'd even begun doing free car maintenance workshops for single parents and low-income families, teaching basic skills that could save hundreds in mechanic bills. "Riley," Carlos called from across the shop, "can you check this diagnostic? I think it's the MAF sensor, but the reading is weird." Riley walked over, looked at his scan tool, and smiled. "Good catch, but look here." She pointed to a secondary reading. "See how the fuel trim is off? That's your real clue. It's not the MAF. It's a vacuum leak, probably the intake manifold gasket." Carlos's eyes lit up with understanding. "Oh, so the MAF reading is a symptom, not the cause." "Exactly. Always follow the logic chain. Never assume the obvious." Answer is the right one. It was Marcus Sr.'s philosophy, passed down to her, now being passed to the next generation. Jennifer Matthews walked in through the customer entrance, and Riley waved. Jennifer had come back 3 weeks ago, impressed by the changes and ready to help grow the business the right way. She carried a folder of papers. "You're going to want to see this," Jennifer said, handing the folder to Riley. Inside were the financial reports for the quarter. Revenue was back to previous levels. Customer satisfaction scores were at an all-time high. Employee retention was 100%. And there, at the bottom of the page, a comparison chart showed Wellington Automotive outperforming every other independent shop in the Detroit metro area. We did it, Riley said quietly. You did it, Jennifer corrected. You came back when you had every reason not to. You gave this place a second chance. We all did it, Riley amended, looking around at the crew. Every single... In person here. Marcus emerged from under the Civic, grease-stained and exhausted. He saw the folder in Riley's hands. Good news or bad news? Good news, Riley said, handing him the reports. We're profitable again, solidly profitable. Marcus scanned the numbers, and his expression shifted through relief, pride, and something deeper, gratitude. This is incredible. It's what happens when you build a business on the right foundation, Jennifer said. Trust, integrity, excellence. Marcus looked at Riley, and in his eyes she saw genuine humility. I couldn't have done this without you, any of it. I know, Riley said, not unkindly. But you're learning. That's what matters. The shop phone rang, and Tommy answered it. Wellington Automotive, this is Tommy. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Let me check with our lead tech. He covered the receiver and called out, Riley, woman's got a weird noise coming from her transmission. Says 3 other shops told her she needs a full rebuild, $8,000. She wants a second opinion. Riley walked to the phone, already mentally running through diagnostic possibilities. This is Riley Chen. Tell me about the noise. As she talked the customer through scheduling an appointment, Marcus watched her work, confident, knowledgeable, caring. This was what his grandfather had seen. This was what he'd almost destroyed. Big Mike walked over to Marcus, holding a clipboard. Boss, we got a problem. Marcus tensed. What kind of problem? The good kind. We're booked solid for the next 6 weeks. We might need to think about expanding, maybe adding another bay or 2. Marcus looked at Riley, who'd finished her call and was listening. What do you think? I think we need to be smart about growth, Riley said. We don't want to expand too fast and lose quality, but maybe we could convert the old storage room into another bay, hire 1 more experienced tech and 1 more apprentice. Sustainable growth, Marcus said, nodding. Quality over quantity. Now you're getting it, Jennifer smiled. I'll run the numbers, but I think it's doable. As the day wound down and the last customers collected their keys, Marcus called a team meeting. The entire crew gathered in the center of the shop, 8 mechanics, 2 apprentices, Jennifer and Riley. I wanted to say something, Marcus began, and Riley noticed his hands were shaking slightly. Public speaking had never been his strength. 3 months ago, this shop was dying. It was dying because of me, because of my ego and my short-sightedness. I thought I knew better than my grandfather. I thought success meant premium prices and corporate buyouts. I was wrong. He looked at each person individually. This team, this shop, what we've built here, this is success. Not the numbers, though those are good too, but the fact that we take care of each other, that we take care of our customers, that we do the work right every single time. Tommy nodded. Carlos wiped his eyes. Big Mike crossed his arms but looked pleased. I also want to apologize, Marcus continued, his voice thicker now, especially to Riley. I said things that were disrespectful and wrong. I let you go when you were the heart of this operation. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Riley felt the old anger stir, but found it had lost its sharp edges. Time and Marcus's consistent actions had blunted it. Apology accepted, she said, but don't let it happen again. I won't, I promise. Marcus took a breath. And one more thing, I'm making some changes to the business structure. Riley, I'm making you a partner, 40% ownership. You've earned it, and this shop needs your leadership locked in for the long term. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Riley stood frozen, shocked. Marcus, I can't. You can, and you will, he insisted. My grandfather would have wanted this. Hell, he probably always intended it. You're not just an employee, you're family, you're his legacy, just as much as I am. Riley felt tears prick her eyes. She thought about Marcus Wellington Sr., about the day he'd hired her, about every lesson he'd taught her, about how he'd seen potential in a 19-year-old girl when no one else had. Okay, she whispered. Okay, thank you. The crew surrounded her, offering congratulations and hugs. Even Marcus, awkward as ever with physical affection, gave her a tentative handshake that turned into a brief, genuine embrace. "We're going to make him proud," Marcus said, quietly, so only she could hear. "We already are," Riley replied. That night, after everyone had gone home, Riley stood alone in the shop, savoring the quiet. She walked to the wall where Marcus had hung new photographs, pictures of the crew, of customers, of successful repairs, and in the center, a large photo of Marcus Wellington Sr., smiling in his coveralls, standing in front of this very building. "We did it," Riley said to the picture. "We saved it. We're going to keep it going." She could almost hear his reply in that gruff, warm voice she remembered so well. "I never doubted you, kid. Not for a second." The shop door opened, and Marcus walked back in, looking surprised to see her. "Forgot my jacket. Didn't expect anyone to still be here." "Just thinking," Riley said. Marcus walked over and stood beside her, looking at his grandfather's photo. "He was something, wasn't he?" "He was everything," Riley said. "He taught me that fixing cars isn't just a job. It's a craft. It's in taking care of people. It's building something that matters." "He taught me that too," Marcus admitted. "I just forgot for a while, got seduced by the idea of easy money and corporate success." "But you remembered," Riley said. "That's what matters. You remembered, and you had the guts to admit you were wrong and fix it." They stood in comfortable silence, two very different people united by a common purpose and a shared love for a man who'd believed in both of them. "You know what my grandfather told me once," Marcus said. "He said the best businesses aren't built on profit. They're built on relationships, on trust, on doing the right thing, even when it's hard." "He told me the same thing," Riley said with a small smile. "Smart man, the smartest." Marcus turned to her. "I'm glad you came back, not just for the shop, but because I think I needed to learn this lesson, needed to remember what really matters." "We all need reminding sometimes," Riley said. "The important thing is that you listened, you changed. Not many people can do that. I had good motivation. Failure has a way of clarifying things." Riley laughed. "True enough." Marcus grabbed his jacket from his office and headed for the door. He paused at the threshold. "See you tomorrow?" "Every day," Riley confirmed. "We've got a lot of work to do." "The best kind of work," Marcus said. After he left, Riley took one more look around the shop. Her shop now, in partnership. The place where she'd learned her craft, lost her mentor, been rejected, and ultimately found her way home. Wellington Automotive would continue, not as a premium corporate entity, but as what it had always been meant to be, a place where honest work was honored, where people were valued, and where a legacy of integrity lived on. Riley turned off the lights and locked up, stepping out into the cool Detroit night. The city sprawled around her, millions of cars on millions of journeys, each one eventually needing care, maintenance, and the skilled hands of people who understood them. She climbed into her old F-150, the truck that had carried her toolbox away from this place and then carried it back again. The engine started with the reliable purr of something well-maintained and loved. As she drove home through the quiet streets, Riley thought about second chances, about redemption, about the unexpected ways that failure can lead to growth, that loss can lead to renewal, that even the deepest wounds can heal. If people are willing to do the hard work. Marcus Wellington had fired the greasy mechanic, convinced she was holding him back. But in the end, she'd saved him. Not because she had to, but because beneath the grease and oil, beneath the coveralls and calloused hands, beat the heart of someone who understood what Marcus Wellington Sr. had known all along. The best measure of success isn't what you accumulate, it's what you build, it's who you help, it's the legacy you leave behind. And by that, measure Wellington Automotive and Riley Chen were succeeding beyond measure.